Alright mates, how's it going? Today's video, episode 15, Day of the Dragon Richard A. Let's go! Buh! With breathing once more becoming an option for her, Vereesa sat bolt upright. But as she opened her eyes, she saw that she was now in a cave, with 3 figures stood nearby. She couldn't quite make out who they were, due to her eyes not quite adapting to the darkness just yet. But she could see by the shape of their forms that she was probably better off keeping as quiet as she possibly could. But it was a bit too late for that because she'd just gone "buh" really loudly.
Supper's away. Looks more like dessert to me. Definitely dessert. Slim pickings lately. But time now for a feast, yes.
Something to Vereesa's right then let out a groan. 'Twas Falstad. He still lived too, although judging by his wounds, the ranger was not confident he'd last much longer.
Patience, dwarf. You'll be first, don't you worry. Well, can't we just do it now, Gree? Because I said so, Schnell. I'm leader. Yes, Schnell. Yeah, Gree. Yeah. Yes, Volsh.
The other creature bobbed his head up and down frantically.
Yeah, Gree. You're leader, yeah.
The trio then went back to some muffled conversation around the fire, and Vereesa again looked to Falstad, who stared back at her. But as she raised an eyebrow towards him, he answered with a shake of his head. Despite his strength, he could not escape his bonds. So the ranger went ahead and tried to find some looseness in her own ropes. Nope, these cannibal creatures might be barbaric, but they sure knew how to tie a knot.
Dessert's lively. Should make for good sport. Where's the others? Should have been here by now. Oh, knows what'll happen if he doesn't obey. Maybe he...
The leader stopped mid-sentence and suddenly seized his throwing axe, and then all chaos broke loose.
Well, no wonder the trolls fought so hard. Gimel, you see this?
Aye, Rom. Much better sight than what I found over here.
Let's see if we can get these ropes off you without too much damage to that fine form.
As Rom started to fiddle about with Vereesa's bonds, she got a good look at his face. As suspected, 'twas a dwarf, at least 6 inches shorter than Falstad, but much stockier in build.
Here you go.
The ropes fell away, and Vereesa slowly picked herself up off the ground, but as she did, she heard a long string of swear words to her right.
Shut your mouth, or I'll stuff that gag back in permanent. It'd take a whole army of you hill dwarfs to take one from the airy down.
There was a murmur from the rest of the crowd of rescuers, indicating that if Falstad didn't shut up, both he and Vereesa could potentially find themselves tied up again. Falstad, be polite. They did just save us from a pretty awful fate.
Aye, you have the right of it. Those damn trolls, they'll eat anything, dead or alive.
They mentioned some companions. Perhaps we should leave this place quickly.
No need to worry about them. How do you think we found this trio?
However, Rom then mused for a moment.
But you may be right, nonetheless. They're not the only band of trolls in this region. The orcs, they use them almost like hunting hounds.
Thank you for your timeliness.
Had I known it were you we were rescuing, I'd have made this sorry bunch move faster.
The other dwarf, Gimel, then piped up.
Judge is dead. Nan's bad, needs fixing up. The rest of the wounded can travel well enough. Then let's be moving. That means you too, Butterfly.
That little jab was directed towards Falstad, who looked deeply insulted, and Vereesa was pretty sure Butterfly was some kind of slur used towards airy dwarfs, so she quickly placed a hand on his shoulder to keep him somewhat calm. The group of rescuer dwarfs then moved around the cave, looting the trolls for any useful items. However, they also looted their own dead companion, and seemed quite intent to leave his body where it lay, rather than bringing it with them.
The war demands some proprietaries to be left behind, Lady Elf. George would have understood. We'll divide his stuff up to his nearest kin, and they'll also get an extra share of the troll's items.
I had no idea there were any of you left in Khazmodan. It was said that all the dwarves left when it became clear they could not hold the land against the Horde.
Aye, all that could leave did. Wasn't possible for us though, you know. The Horde, it came like the proverbial plague. Cut many of us off from any route. We were forced to go deeper underground than we've ever gone. Many died then, and many more's died since.
How many are you?
My clan? 7 and 40. We once counted hundreds. We spoke to 3 other clans, 2 larger than ourselves. Put the total number at 300, give or take. 300's still quite a number. With that many I'd have gone to take Rimbatol back. Well, perhaps if we fluttered and pranced about in the sky like dizzy bugs. but on the ground or under it, we're still at a disadvantage. Only takes one dragon to bake the earth.
Again, old enmities between the area and the hills threatened to explode, so Vereesa tried to mediate.
Enough of this. The orcs and theirs are the enemy here, are they not? If you fight with one another, does that not serve their purpose for them?
Falstad then mumbled an apology to Vereesa, as did Rom, but Mama Vereesa wasn't satisfied.
Not good enough. Turn and face each other. Swear you'll fight only for the good of all of us. Swear you'll always remember that it is the orcs that slew your brothers. Aye, 'tis the right of it. I'll shake. Well, if ye be doing it, then I be doing it.
The two then clasped hands, and then the party left the cave and moved on.
Now that the danger of the trolls is behind us, Lady Elf, you should tell us what brings the two of ye to our wounded land. Is it as we hope? Has the war turned back on the orcs? Will Khazmodan soon be free again? The war has turned against the Horde, that much is true. The bulk of them were broken a few months back, and Doomhammer has disappeared. Then why are the orcs still in command of Grim Batol? You need to ask. First of all, the orcs still hold out in the north at Dun Al Gaz. It is said they're beginning to cave in, but they want to go down without a fight. And second, have you not noticed they have dragons?
Rom shot his second in command a quick death stare for the snort, but then nodded at Falstad in resignation.
Aye, dragons. The one foe we earthbound can I battle. Got a young one on the ground once, made short work of it. Still lost one or two good warriors though. But for the most part, they stay up there and we're forced to hide down here. You fought the trolls though, and surely the orcs as well. Aye, we've done them some damage, but it means nothing whilst our home's still under orc axe. Now, I ask again, tell me who you are and what you're doing here. If Khazmodan's still orcish, then you fools must be suicidal. My name is Vereesa Windrunner, Ranger, and this is Falstad of the Ares. We're here because I search for a human, a wizard. Tall, young, red hair. When I last saw him, he was headed this direction.
Vereesa chose not to mention Deathwing's presence for the moment, and was grateful that Falstad didn't add the information himself.
Well, as daft as wizards are, especially human ones, what would he be thinking coming here?
Rom studied the two with growing suspicion. This all seemed a bit too far-fetched for him.
I don't know, but I think it has something to do with the dragons. The dragons? What's he planned to do? Rescue the Dragon Queen from bondage? I'm sure she'll be so grateful she'll eat him quickly.
The rest of the hill dwarves all found this terribly amusing, but the ranger elf did not. And to his credit, Falstad didn't join in with the merriment either. But then he knew about Deathwing. Plus he'd made it pretty clear he felt like Ronan had likely already been eaten quite a while ago.
I swore an oath, and because of it I will go on. I must reach Grim Batol and see if I can help him.
The laughter then immediately ceased.
Lady Vereesa, I respect your calling, but have you gone absolutely mental? You and your people saved us, Rom, and for that I thank you all. All I ask is that you show me the nearest tunnel to the mountain fortress and I will take it alone from there. Not alone, my elven lady. I've come too far to turn back now, and I've a mind to find a certain goblin and skin his hide for boots. So you're both mental then. Look, if it's a way to Grim Batol you want, then I'll not set that task to another. I'll take you there myself.
I'll go with you, Rom. You cannot go alone. The rest of the band of hill dwarves all simultaneously decided that they too needed to go with Rom. But
the wounded need to be taken back. But you're all stubborn assholes, so best thing to do is roll the bones. High numbers come with, low numbers go home.
Vereesa didn't particularly want to stand around and wait for the dwarves to play a little dice game, but there was no other choice. So she and Falstad stood there and watched as the various non-wounded dwarves pulled out their little pouches and started rolling dice around. And Falstad had a bit of a chuckle to himself.
The Ares and the hills might have their differences, but you'll find few dwarves of any kind that don't carry the dice.
After quite a while of dice bullshit,
here's your volunteers, Lady Vereesa. Each of them are strong and ready to fight. We'll lead you to a cave at the base of the mountain, then you're on your own after that. Thank you, but do you mean to say there's a path that leads directly into the mountain itself? Aye, but it's no easy one. The orcs do not patrol it alone. What do you mean by that? What? You've not noticed they've dragons?
Meanwhile, back with Krasus. He was back in his sanctum, mulling over his confrontation with She of the Dreaming. Ysera had provided some hope, but he couldn't put all of his eggs in that basket. But first he needed to drink from a special pool within his sanctum that had rejuvenation powers, because drinking that poison a few chapters ago had left him quite drained. However, as he leaned over the pool, a rippling in the surface caught his eye. A reflection, but it wasn't his. It was that of his pawn, Ronin, and he looked kinda dead. Now this Paul had never shown this ability before, so it was a bit odd that it was doing it now. Krasus then recalled Ysera's parting words. Do not undervalue those who think only pawns. What did she mean by that? Ronin didn't have any value anymore. He'd served his purpose. He'd arrived at Khazmodan, which would have no doubt stirred up the commanders there and made them think an invasion was on its way. That would no doubt cause them to retreat north, thereby temporarily losing their ability to raise more dragons, which would be great for the Alliance, but also bringing the Dragon Queen out into the open, which would be great for Krasus. Yes, Ronin had played his part well, but that didn't stop Krasus from feeling like a little bit of a dick now. What would Alexstrasza think? She cared about the younger races more so than any dragon. They were the children of the future, she'd once said.
It had to be done.
Krasus then bowed his respects towards the reflection of Ronin, turned, and then concentrated really hard. It was time to contact another of his agents. One of his more useful ones. He pictured the one he sought in his mind, and then reached out and opened a link.
Hear me now. Hear my voice. The day may be on us, at last, my patient friend. The day of freedom and redemption for you and your people, Rom.